I mean, take a look. It's a pale blue dot. That's us. That's home. That's where we are. On it, everybody you love, everybody you know, everybody you've ever heard of, lived out their days there. The aggregate of all our joy and suffering, thousands of confident ideologies, religions, economic doctrines, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there. The Earth is a very small stage in a great cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, presidents and prime ministers, party leaders, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of the corner of a dot.
You're welcome to another episode of Beyond Indoctrination. It's been a long while, but this particular episode has been designed specifically to be aired today because of what it signifies. It commemorates and marks one of the most reflective, passages in the whole of science and philosophy. We are not talking about any other than Carl Sagan's Pale Blue Dot, a passage he wrote about the immensity of the cosmos in relation to Earth. So we are going to break it down today, and without much ado, let's get into it. So before we get deep into the passage itself, let me give a little backstory to this concept. It all started in the 1970s. NASA had a planned mission, and this mission was called the Voyager program. In this quest, they built the Voyager 1, and it was intended to study the outer planets of our solar system. The solar system has outside planets and inside planets. The inside planets are the Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. And then the outside planets are the Jupiter, the Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. These are also called gas giants. So that was basically the intent behind the Voyager program. And one of the main things that the Voyager 1 was also supposed to do was to give detailed images and scientific data about their moons, their atmosphere, and their rings. In fact, Saturn especially has some very wonderful and beautiful rings, and so we were supposed to send detailed images and scientific data about all these planets. So yeah, that was the fundamental purpose and the fundamental aim of the mission.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. MDS, we have ignition, we have a liftoff.
Roll program is in on time. Vehicle response is normal.
TVC bus voltage looks good. Tank pressures look good.
Okay, MDS. Engine program was in on time. Vehicle response was normal also. Very smooth flight. Very, very small attitude disturbances.
Everything was in place. The spacecraft was eventually designed, and it was launched on the 5th of September 1977. Take notes with me, it was launched on the 5th September 1977 aboard the Titan IIE rocket here in Florida in the 1970s. But as I described earlier, it was supposed to take detailed images of the outer planets, I mean the gas giants, which is Jupiter and Saturn, etc., and send them back to Earth for us to analyze the details of all these planets. Mind you, within this period, Carl Sagan was part of NASA's imaging team. So he was part of NASA, but in the department of the imaging. He had colleagues like Caroline Poco and Ed Stone. So Carl Sagan, Caroline Poco, and Ed Stone advocated that before Voyager 1 makes its final planetary move and goes deep into interstellar space, it should turn its back and then take a family portrait picture of the solar system. So this is it. That was initially not part of the plan or the responsibility of Voyager 1. Voyager 1 basically, as stated earlier, was only responsible for taking detailed imaging and analyzing the outer planets, which was a little farther away from home, which is Earth. Nonetheless, Caroline Poco, Ed Stone, and Carl Sagan actually was advocating to NASA that it should be able to take its camera backwards and as farther as it is to take a shot of what the solar system, I mean, as a family portrait of all the planets thereof. But this didn't sit well eventually because they felt like turning the cameras back facing the sun was going to affect the camera and all that. But back and forth, they consented. And then it actually took the family portrait and then it took this image. This particular image you're looking at on the screen. And this image has a sunbeam, which is a ray of light, okay, caused by the sun. And then there is a little pixel item in that sunbeam. And that is actually what we are sitting on right now. Happens to be the planet Earth. As tiny as it was, at a distance of what? 6 billion kilometers. So at that point when the picture was taken, the Voyager 1 was 6 billion kilometers away from Earth. And just 6 billion kilometers, which of course in light speed would be less than 6 hours, which of course people who understand astronomically huge numbers knows that 6 billion kilometers is just something small. And then barely 6 billion kilometers, this is how negligible Earth looks. This image or this family portrait was sent in 1990. It was actually taken on the 14th February 1990. Guess what 14th February is? 14th February is Valentine's Day and what? A day of love. I don't know whether it's by coincidence or by intention, but it was taken on the 14th of February 1990. And it got to Earth the same day. It was received by the NASA Space Network in that same day, 14th February. I think about 5.5 hours, the image had already reached Earth. So yes, that is how we got that image. And between the 1990 when we got the image, the imaging team, of course, the individuals of NASA had the image, but within that time, astronomy wasn't anything huge. It wasn't anything that popular. People didn't even have a section for science in the newspapers and all that. So it was relatively quiet. But this really touched Carl Sagan. About 4 years of the image reaching Earth, Carl Sagan was obviously working on this. And he published a book in 1994. You remember I told you the image was taken on 14th February 1990 and he published the book in 1994, which means he was working on that project within that period. And he named the book Pale Blue Dot, a vision of the human future in space. Yes, as seen on your screen. Pale Blue Dot, a vision of the human future in space. And this book contains one of the most reflective passages you could find in science and philosophy. And there is no other way to obtain a broader perspective of life on earth than to immerse yourself in this passage. And that is what I am going to get into right away.
Earth would be barely noticed by you. You'll notice Saturn, you'll notice Jupiter, and you'll say, what are these balls of rock orbiting closer to the sun? And this was Carl Sagan made a big point of this back in 1990 when he talked about the pale blue dot. He convinced NASA to have Voyager, when it passed Neptune, the last planet in the solar system, to turn its... I'm just tell it like it is. He convinced Voyager to turn its camera back towards Earth, and it was basically amounts to Earth's first ever selfie. And that picture was taken, and there was these pale blue dots sitting in this void, and he wrote a whole book on this. So these pictures from Saturn with Earth is the sort of the modern counterpart to the pale blue dot.
Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. And that's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you've ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering. Thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines. Every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and destroyer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on a mote of dust suspended in the sunbeam. The earth is a very small stage in the vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How fervent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatred. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from somewhere to save us from ourselves. The earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit? Yes. Settle? Not yet. Like it or not, for the moment, the earth is where we make our stand. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is no better demonstration of the folly of human conceit than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, It underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
What do you see when you look at the pale blue dot?
My view is here we are like mites on a plum. And the plum is this little planet, and it goes around an insignificant local star, the sun. And that star is on the obscure outskirts of an ordinary galaxy, the Milky Way, which contains 400 billion other stars. And this galaxy is just one of something like 100 billion other galaxies that make up the universe. And this universe is one of an enormous number, maybe even an infinite number, of other closed-off universes. So the idea that we are central, that we are the reason there is a universe, is pathetic.
As we close today's episode on the reflection of this beautiful and incredible passage, it is almost impossible that we link it to what is happening today in our world, considering the geopolitical tensions and dynamics in the Middle East. When you step a little backwards beyond our borders, beyond our nationalities, beyond the flags and our ideologies, you see something profoundly humbling, and you realize that we are just one species of primate trying to annihilate each other. Then whenever you feel extremely lonely, know that Voyager 1 is still alive 25 to 26 billion kilometers away from its home planet and still functioning and giving back discoveries and informations about interstellar space as it was designed to be. So thank you for being a part of another wonderful episode of Beyond Indoctrination. We look forward to seeing you and meeting you on another wonderful one. Thank you for your time. Peace out.